Sister who bullied me my whole life and made it miserable wants to reconcile, and my wife wants to help her. I 27 am the youngest of 4 children. My 30-year-old sister Lisa physically and emotionally abused me. She would pick on me at school to curry favor with her classmates. It started with her calling me names and then escalated by the 5th grade. She pantsed me in front of a group of girls, exposing my private bits to a group of female friends. While I was young, she would beat me up, and on more than one occasion she would leave me bloody. When I was bigger than her and when she couldn't physically overpower me, she began spreading horrible rumors, including things about my purported homosexuality, bestiality and sexual deviance. The teachers took her side, including the school's disciplinarian. They felt that I was making this up because she was a great student. I was also a straight A student. My sister consistently denied the accusations to my parents. My sister would play innocent at home and cry about how I was so mean to her and would go out of her way to be nice to me at home. Fortunately, my parents didn't buy it and eventually sent me to a different school to avoid her. My parents could never prove what she had done and were stonewalled by school officials who didn't see the bullying. Since the school was no help, my parents separated us and would routinely ensure that at home we were separated. She was even put in therapy, but she still would never admit to anything, even though they opted to send me to a different school in the same city. But I couldn't bring friends over because she would quickly tell anyone about my so-called personality. Because of the abuse, my sister was phenomenally popular at school. She was basically treated like royalty by people who'd ask what weird shit I had done on the weekend. If I wore a new shirt to school, she'd tell classmates that I was trying to fit in, so they'd amp up the abuse. Fortunately, this was before the rise of social media. I left for university across the country and it was transformative. I could be myself. My parents put me into therapy while I was at school and I had to work on some issues, including trust and body issues, some of which I still have. A few years after high school, she eventually came clean to a therapist and admitted to my family what she had done to me. My family was horrified. My oldest sisters had routinely thought I was making this up, and while they wouldn't engage in the abuse, would never take my side or protect me. Consequently, I am close to my parents, but I could easily go the rest of my life without seeing my sisters. My oldest sister Sarah has made frequent attempts to reconcile, as have my other sisters. I'm not really interested. I got married last year, finished my graduate education, law school, and started working. My wife Audrey and I decided to elope, where we only invited parents and had a quick ceremony. Due to an unforeseen condom incident, where I went in without a helmet, we got pregnant and had a beautiful daughter. Problem is, my sister Lisa and other sisters not only want to make amends, but to meet our daughter. I came home from work and my wife was sitting at the dinner table. She was reading a letter and asked me to sit down. My sister Lisa had written a long letter. Audrey wanted to read it first in case it was more of her craziness. In it, she outlined that she had been abused by someone outside of our family. She wrote about how she had ruined my life and relations with my sisters. She apparently had a sit down with my family and told them everything and wanted to approach me before they told me what was going on. I read the letter and felt very little, mostly disdain for her. My wife booked a couples therapy session. The therapist asked that we speak alone and we talked. I told her the extent of my sister's abuse and to what degree she had haunted my youth. The therapist was helpful, but did recommend that I work on my issues some more. Felt like a money grab, and that I should look within myself to forgive my sister, even if that means I don't pursue a relationship. My wife thinks I should forgive her and that she and my sisters should meet at a public location with the baby. I told my wife that if I'm forced to be near Lisa, I'll simply explode, and have refused. Audrey didn't push it then, but has begun applying pressure on me to begin forgiving my sister. My sisters have also stepped up the frequency of emails, letters and communications through my mother or wife. I got Lisa's email and wrote a formal cease and desist letter warning her that any further communication with me, my wife or child would result in further legal action. It got back to my life, who has been really upset with me. I feel like I have every right to keep them out of my life and owe them nothing. My wife thinks I owe my sister, who she feels was deeply traumatized, the ability to apologize to my face. This past weekend, I was out getting some groceries for Audrey. When I arrived home, there was a car in the driveway that I didn't recognize. I went in and found my oldest sister. I was furious. I told her and her husband to get out. I was furious with my wife. We got into a fight and I told her to never, ever, blindside me again or I'd divorce her. She felt bad, but I was so mad I spent the weekend sulking and working in the basement. Everyone is pushing me one way and I absolutely hate the idea of ever forgiving her. Update, Valp, I don't even know where to begin. I posted just over a week ago. I'm still gathering my thoughts. So, here goes. After reading all of the comments, I went and spoke to Audrey, my wife. She knew I was furious still and quickly opened the floor by apologizing and saying many of the things you had all said here. We talked, she cried. I ate. I felt vindicated but was annoyed that I didn't get to have my dramatic moment. From what she told me, she has an aunt that her mother won't speak to and she didn't want it getting to that level, and that is why she cried and she felt bad for everything, including meeting to my sisters without my knowledge/consent. It goes like this for a while and wait, meet? As in, I've met them before, not just at our house? I ask her to clarify and she admits that she's met my sisters, save for Lisa, and I'll be getting to that, before. My wife's school is adjacent to where my sister works. I didn't know this, and they had met for coffee/lunch on a few occasions, with my middle sister coming to meet with them at least once. Son of a bitch. By this point, I'm again furious. My oldest sister had bumped into my wife and they struck up a conversation. The thing is, my mother provided pictures to my sisters, so she knew exactly who she was. By bumped into, my sister simply found my wife and introduced herself. I felt had. I again escaped to my man cave, which is basically a room in the basement where I occasionally smoke cigars and drink with my friends. After I cooled down, I went to talk to Audrey. She had made me steak and ordered Chinese food, which was a cheap attempt to try and calm the situation. Unfortunately, it worked. We talked. After telling her that another omission and I was going to seriously question our marriage, I get the entire story, and buckle in for this one. People. Lisa, my ne'er-do-well, abusive sister, has basically ruined the lives of everyone in my family. She accused the husband of my middle sister of being a sexual pervert and admitted to a very fake affair. She then rocked my oldest sister's world by apparently front-kicking my youngest nephew, who is probably 3. Apparently my nephew was sitting and signing loudly at the TV, so she front-kicked him. The front kick was Lisa's favorite weapon, which I remember all too well. My sister's husband apparently tackled her and my mother called the police. She was taken for a psych hold, and in lieu of criminal charges, she was admitted for a stay in a regional psychiatric facility and is barred from contact with my family, for the time being. I'll get to that, too. She was diagnosed with slew of mental disorders. No shit. My parents know I have a zero-tolerance policy for Lisa-related news, which is why it never filtered back to me. So, needless to say, my sister is mentally ill and now the entire family knows. What infuriated me was that Audrey knew this incident and wanted me to make amends. The chance that my kid gets within 100 meters of Lisa is nil. I basically told Audrey to drop the Lisa issue. It was a non-starter. She's too sick, and I am not too sure she's not putting people on. She's that cunning, and too dangerous, and I am not going to put myself in any position to deal with her. Audrey accepted that. My oldest sister had to face a bunch of demons and now realizes that to protect her husband and children, they can't be around Lisa, especially unsupervised, and Lisa can only be at events where there are a lot of potential witnesses. Lisa is not welcome at their home, or my parents' home, and to interact with her, it has to be in a public place. Lisa cannot go near the children/her husband. My middle sister nearly wound up divorced. Her husband consistently claimed his innocence, but Lisa could spin a phenomenal story that was so convincing that people began to believe she was having an affair. My sister and her husband went through hell. But, it turns out, details are not Lisa's strength and she wound up making claims that couldn't be backed up, and that's when it all fell apart. So, my sister's husbands have banned Lisa from their houses and from seeing their kids. Lisa is now living in an apartment by herself and in routine therapy. Well, I guess after all of these events went down, it became apparent that not only was I not crazy, but my reaction to it had been, at least partly, justified. My sisters decided that they wanted to make amends, but I had been really uninterested. That's when they picked on the weakest duckling, my wife. My mother didn't think it was a great idea and thought that if there was going to be a meeting, my mother should put it out there and just let it be. I honestly would have chosen that route. But, no. Audrey, doing her best to infuriate and annoy me, asked that I meet my sisters. It would be me, my 2 sisters, and no one else. I could set the time and place. I agreed on the condition that Audrey not attend and that there be zero expectations. I chose to meet them at a local pub, which I got to about an hour early. All week I had been dreading this. We had decided to meet on Saturday afternoon. I got there early and I was already 2 pints in when they arrived. We sat and had a few moments of stilted conversation. I realized that their husbands had come and were sitting at a different table, so I simply invited them over. My sisters had brought pictures of their family and they talked about what they were up to and how they were proud of me for becoming a lawyer. Just as I was about to have my dramatic moment, the wind was knocked out of my sails again. My middle sister jumped straight into it and apologies, profusely, as does my oldest sister and her husband, who grabs my hand and tells me how sorry he is. Okay, seriously? I was infuriated that I was going to have my big dramatic moment only to have the proverbial chair kicked out from under me. This caused me to drink more. There must have been over an hour of them telling me what a scumbag my sister is / how they are sorry / how they realize they damaged my childhood, etc. Well, afternoon turns to evening. I recommend that we take a photo to send to my parents. They haven't seen their kids together in years. My parents are thrilled and share the photos with my wife. Audrey begins to call my phone. I'm still pissed off with her, and leaves me teary, maudlin messages. Then the idea bounces around that my sisters will host a combined birthday party / family get-together early next month. Being drunk, I agree. This gets around to my parents and wife, who can't believe how well this turned out. I'm not thrilled I drank a little too much, And I'm not thrilled I agreed to some family gathering in October, but I could see how much it meant to my parents, and I realized that holding on to so much anger really made me feel better but was hurting them, and I don't want to be vindictive, so I can tolerate getting to know them all again at set family events. So, before we went out separate ways, I got to ask a question. Why didn't they believe me? Basically, it boiled down to the fact that Lisa could lie like she breathes and could easily build a narrative where it wasn't clear who was being forthright, and I often took the blame. I told them how I still have trust issues and how Lisa's abuse impacts my personal life. This caused them to get teary and apologize, which, sadly, didn't make me as happy as I dreamed it would. My wife has been really happy, and my mother called and admitted that she knows this is just a first step, and it's not an easy process, but having her family get back together is something that weighed heavily on her. So, I guess, I made everyone happy. I'm not thrilled. Getting the answers I wanted didn't feel as good as I thought it would be. But, I guess, there is a weight lifted, and the feeling that people know I wasn't crazy/a liar/wrong makes me feel better. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Girlfriend's brothers physically assaulted me after my drunk girlfriend falsely claimed I SA'd her. Hi, I am a 22M in my first and only serious relationship. My 20FGF is also in her first serious relationship. However, she had had a few previous high school and online relationships that never went anywhere. A few weeks back, me and my GF attended a family party at her family's home with her siblings and siblings' friends, which involved alcohol. Neither of us are drinkers, but given the event, we went into it expecting to get a bit drunk. There was a group chat made beforehand discussing the plans of the party with everyone invited. Will become relevant later on. The night started off like any normal party, but before we knew it, everyone was visibly drunk. During the party, I noticed one of her brother's friend, I'll call him Z, and her together being touchy. Although it wasn't anything sexual, she is not the type of person to be touchy with any males, including her brothers. When I noticed them, Z looked at me and then told my GF that we are making your BF jealous. You should go to him, and walked away. I was very weirded out by the situation, and when I tried to make small talk with Z later on, he refused to. To give brief context, I've met Z 2 or 3 times prior, and apparently Z views my GF like a sister, and because of that, he is very protective of her and does not like me dating her. I've noticed she's been touchy with him the last time we met and expressed to her that because she has jokingly told me in the past that Z may have a crush on her. I don't really feel comfortable with that. She said she understood and to not worry. Later on in the night, me and a few family friends noticed my GF disappear for approximately 15 to 20 minutes. When I found my GF again after, she told me she had to go to the washroom, in which I had to as well, and asked me if we could go together. While in the washroom, I noticed that there was bills in her underwear. I questioned how money could have ended up there, and she immediately responded with my younger brother put it there, which did not make any sense to me. Her younger brother is underage, and I knew that he would never have done that, and given that was intoxicated, I became worried and upset and decided to leave the washroom and went upstairs. After I left, she started crying and started telling people that I accused her of cheating. I presume it was because of what happened earlier with Z, as I never brought up cheating or Z to her when asking about the money in her underwear. Her younger brother came to me shortly after and asked what happened. I explained the money situation, and he confirmed that it wasn't true and was not sure why she accused him of putting money there. He asked me to go deal with my GF. However, I explained that I was very confused and upset and that I needed time alone. After, Z came up to me and spoke to me privately, and he told me that it's fine to be jealous. I explained that it had nothing to do with him, and also told him about what my GF said about her brother. However, he told me that he's just a teenager and tried to play it off like it was nothing. After Z left, her older and younger brother, as well as some family friends, I believe 5 or 6 people total, came upstairs and started shouting at me. I can't necessarily remember what each person was saying, as multiple people shouting at once is very incoherent. However, it was along the lines of "you're a shitty boyfriend and that I must speak to her now." Z then reappeared and, with the support of the older and younger brother, allowed Z to physically drag me out of the home from the second floor. I did not resist while this occurred. At this point, I was very upset and scared. The situation escalated very fast because it became physical. I said I'm willing to speak to my GF in order to avoid any additional physical altercations. I was then told that apparently my GF does not want to speak to me anymore. While waiting for a ride home, another family friend came up to me and told me that she did not mean to say that her brother put money in her underwear, and that she meant to tell me that her brother gave it to her and she placed it there herself. I later discovered that it was because her pants had no pockets, which I guess explained how it ended up where it did. I decided that I needed some more time away from her and spoke to a few friends about it the following day. They all agreed that it should have never became physical, but a few friends told me that I should speak to her again to clear the air. I eventually sent a message to my GF and explained how I felt and that I'm sorry for storming off, and that I was told after the fact that about how her brother gave it to her and the no pockets situation. However, I also explained that I was extremely bothered by the fact that it became physical and did not feel safe or welcome near her brothers for allowing their friend to become physical with me. I went into the conversation expecting that we were going to break up, but then it became a multi-hour conversation. I was told that she was unaware that it became physical and that she never said she didn't want to speak to me, and that she never knew that I said I was willing to speak to her after I was removed. We ended up resolving the situation and I thought it was over. The next morning, I woke up to the group chat exploding. Apparently her older brother was very upset that we resolved the situation very fast and that he does not understand how her sister, my GF, could be with someone who is so terrible. As I scrolled through the chat, I learned that the reason why I was being labeled terrible was because during that night, people were told that I SA my GF. I asked her what's going on and why people are accusing me of SA. She said she had no clue. She started speaking in the group chat and told people that she was never SA, but then multiple people, including her brother, said that she was the one that said those things. Her brother then said to her that while she was crying, she told him that I was a terrible BF, how I apparently SA her multiple times and that I deserved to be beaten up. Hearing this broke me. I asked her why she said those things and she jumped between my brother is lying. I was drunk and don't remember what exactly I said and one of the girls said it and not me. She then went back in the group chat and then reaffirmed that it wasn't true, in which both her brothers called her a liar. I was confused and unsure who to believe at this point. I asked if she has ever felt that I've SA her and to be truthful to me. She was very firm on the fact that I have never SA her and that she has no idea where the accusations came from. She spent the remainder of the day explaining to everyone that I never SA her and that none of the accusations were true. She has since told me that she's very sorry about the whole situation multiple times now, but she also expects me to just move on like it was nothing. It's been a few weeks since this happened and I'm really trying my damn best to try to move on. My biggest concern is whether or not she is lying about being the one who started the accusations. About a week ago, she ended up telling me that she was lying about another thing that she's been telling me since we started dating. It was somewhat of a white lie and had no significant impact on the relationship, but it just further damages my trust in her as it was a situation where she had no need to lie about it and that her lying about it just damages her credibility. I'm unsure if I'm being reasonable with having issues trusting her and I'm unsure if this is something I should expect to move past from. Looking for any advice here. Thanks.